So I think the best place to maybe start would be, take us back to when you seen Bitcoin and these cryptocurrencies that were coming about. As someone who's been involved in the financial markets for as long as you have, and studying them and teaching people about them, what did you see then? How did that look when Bitcoin arrived? What did you think when you thought, when this was launched? Has your opinion changed, or did you see it right from the offset for what it was?
Well, what I did notice, I mean, clearly in the beginning, well, what are we talking, 2010, 2011, it was very, very fringe. I mean, obviously, you know, but what I noticed is that very early on, the mainstream media would pick it up and would have big stories. And that's how it started to get better known. It's the Financial Times writing about it. But here was this fairly fringe new thing. And they had almost half-page huge articles on this, and therefore, you know, propagating Bitcoin. It didn't take long for Bloomberg and Reuters to actually quote Bitcoin, and these are all actually marketing tools. And at that time, you couldn't justify it because the number of transactions, the percentage of transactions taking place with that was almost nothing, and therefore there was no justification. So it was clear from the beginning that some very influential people wanted to spread Bitcoin and everything else. So, you know, alternative currencies. So that's certainly the impression I got. So I was a bit suspicious there. But at the same time, you know, with all this emphasis on these alternative currencies, cryptocurrencies, and I believe also actually directly money, even from governments, for under the guise of fintech, new industry support, and then central banks supporting fintech quite actively, it was clear there was, you know, establishment support, and it has been successful. Of course, you can create a lot of jobs, and it's been a huge and growing movement. That, in my view, one should use as much as possible for the greater good. And so then we came up with the idea to do that and become active in that space.
Well, and also a lot of cryptocurrencies and DeFi as a sort of topic. A lot of people misunderstand DeFi and DeFi cryptocurrencies, and they seem to think that the banks are the enemy, and we need to have something that's not related to banks, and it's going to be decentralized finance, and we are going to succeed. But what people don't realize is it's not the banks that are the enemy. You know, banks are needed. They create the money supply. That needs to happen for an economy to survive and to grow. So therefore, there's no actual way a non-banking system can compete with a banking system, because a non-banking system doesn't have the power of banks. They don't have the ability to create money out of nothing. Only banks can do that. You need a banking license. So there's that misunderstanding there, thinking that banks aren't, you know, they aren't the creators of money. They aren't that important, and we can just compete against it. And what we're doing is actually true decentralized finance, which is we are combining the ethos that's with blockchain and the ethos of Web3, which is doing good, decentralizing, reducing the power of a few, and trying to make sure that everyone can get involved. Everyone has a voice, and especially DAOs. That's what DAOs are about, giving everyone the voice. And
decentralized autonomous organizations for the benefit of those.
Yes. To make sure everyone has their voice and they can speak up, and it's more transparent. And what we're doing is we're combining that ethos and that way of working and that way of governing with a decentralized finance model where the banking system is actually decentralized. And that's what we want to do.
Yeah, it sort of fits into it's the antithesis of the lending window that you wrote about in the Princes of the Yen, where the asset bubble was created when, you know, the lending window basically decided which parts of the economy got lending and which didn't. And that's essentially what you're saying we need to watch out for, because you can create these huge asset bubbles, and Japan still hasn't recovered since I think it was 89, where this particular style of central banking, where we will decide which part gets the money, can cause absolute havoc. You know, it can pump huge asset bubbles, and you know, Japan suffered heavily from it. And it seems like what the path that you've came from writing that book to now is almost like, well, here's what's happened in the past. Here's the problem. I've studied, you know, how credit creation works. So look, here's how it actually works. You know, people, the oxymoron of the place that you might understand finance from won't write about me, and that should maybe be a bit of a warning sign, because I've back tested all the information and here's my experience about where it happened before, and it looks like we're kind of heading there again. So we need to do something now, and it is where you're at today.